Warnings were ignored, and the cost was higher than humanity ever imagined. When humans failed to listen, the aliens paid the ultimate price to save them. The price of arrogance was nearly extinction, but the aliens gave everything to protect humanity. If you want to see more epic HFY sci-fi stories of courage, strategy, and survival, make sure to subscribe to HFY Sci-Fi now. Mysterious objects suddenly appeared in Earth's orbit, moving with a strange precision that no human technology could explain. At first, people thought they were just asteroids or satellites, but scientists quickly realized that these were massive ships, unlike anything humanity had ever seen. News spread rapidly across the globe, and within hours, every television, radio, and digital platform was filled with images of these enormous crafts hovering silently above major cities. Citizens were both terrified and fascinated, staring at the skies in disbelief. Some people panicked, fearing an invasion, while others were filled with curiosity and hope, wondering if they were witnessing first contact with intelligent life from another world. Governments and military organizations immediately went on high alert, deploying radar systems, fighter jets, and observation teams to track the movements of the mysterious vessels. Scientists from top universities and space agencies scrambled to study the signals emitted by the ships, hoping to find patterns that could indicate intent. As hours turned into days, the aliens' presence became undeniable, and humanity realized that this was no ordinary astronomical event. The ships were massive, sleek, and covered with materials that reflected sunlight in strange colors, giving them an almost ethereal glow. Satellites and telescopes could barely capture the full scale, and people on the ground described seeing geometric patterns and lights that moved in ways that defied physics. Panic began to grow in major cities as people feared what might happen next. Governments issued warnings to remain calm, but rumors spread faster than official statements. Some believed the aliens were hostile invaders, while others hoped they came in peace. Social media exploded with theories, videos, and eyewitness accounts, some real and some fabricated, but all fueling a mixture of fear and fascination. Military leaders held urgent meetings to assess potential threats, debating whether to send emissaries, prepare defenses, or attempt communication. World leaders faced an unprecedented dilemma: act too aggressively, and they risked provoking the unknown; act too passively, and they might be seen as weak, unable to protect their people. Amid the chaos, scientists and diplomats tried to convey a message of caution, emphasizing that these beings were advanced enough to observe humanity without necessarily being hostile. Messages were sent via radio waves, lasers, and other experimental communication methods, all aiming to establish contact and understand the aliens' intentions. Ordinary citizens experienced a roller coaster of emotions. Some stopped working entirely, staring at the skies in awe, while others hoarded supplies, fearing an imminent attack. Children watched in wonder, asking parents whether the beings would be friendly or dangerous. In cities around the world, traffic slowed as people gathered in parks and open areas to catch a glimpse of the hovering crafts. The sky became a canvas of glowing shapes and moving lights, transforming ordinary cityscapes into scenes reminiscent of science fiction movies. News anchors struggled to describe the phenomenon without spreading panic, balancing the need to inform with the risk of causing mass hysteria. Behind the scenes, scientists analyzed unusual energy readings, magnetic fluctuations, and gravitational anomalies caused by the ships. Each discovery hinted at technology far beyond human understanding, making it clear that humanity was not just encountering extraterrestrial life, but beings far more advanced than anything previously imagined. As the first days passed, the aliens made no aggressive moves, but their presence was a constant reminder of the unknown. A sense of collective awe began to emerge alongside fear. Humanity was forced to confront its own fragility in the universe. Ordinary routines were disrupted, schools closed in some areas, emergency services were stretched thin, and governments issued frequent updates to keep citizens informed. The world was united in its attention to the sky, every human on the planet now sharing the same concern and curiosity. This was a moment that would be remembered for generations. The arrival of these mysterious ships signaled the beginning of a new chapter in human history, one where humanity was no longer alone. one where decisions made in the coming hours and days could shape the future of Earth forever. People could only watch, wait, and hope that their first encounter with these incredible beings would not end in disaster. And in every city, village, and town, the same thought echoed silently through the minds of billions. What do they want, and why are they here? Top human experts immediately began trying to understand the intentions of the alien visitors. They analyzed the signals, patterns, and lights coming from the ships, hoping to find clues about whether they were friendly or hostile. Teams of linguists, scientists, and engineers worked day and night, sending messages and observing responses, hoping to prevent any misunderstandings. Despite these efforts, humans continued to misinterpret the aliens' actions. The ships moved with purpose, hovering over cities and landmarks, but always keeping a distance, seeming to observe rather than attack. The aliens sent clear warnings through patterns of lights and energy pulses, which human experts interpreted as attempts to guide humans away from dangerous actions. They tried to communicate the importance of calm, patience, and careful observation. But political leaders and military generals were too focused on defense and control. Military forces prepared aggressively, deploying missiles, jets, and advanced weaponry in case the aliens turned out to be a threat. News channels broadcast debates between experts, some urging caution and communication, others advocating immediate attacks, creating confusion among the public. Ordinary people began preparing for the worst, stockpiling food, water, and supplies, while others refused to panic, hoping that reason would prevail. Some nations attempted to unify under a single strategy, but conflicting agendas and distrust made coordination difficult. The aliens, sensing the growing tension, continued to send subtle messages, showing demonstrations of their advanced technology, moving objects, or forming geometric patterns in the sky, hoping humans would understand the warning. However, these messages were often dismissed as optical illusions, weather phenomena, or experimental technology. Politicians argued about whether the aliens posed an existential threat, some insisting on negotiations, others demanding military action. The world was divided, with fear driving irrational decisions. While scientists warned that any aggression could provoke the aliens, military exercises and drills increased, sending the wrong message of hostility. The aliens seemed to understand human behavior better than humans themselves, observing patterns of fear, greed, and ambition. Their patience was remarkable, giving humanity time to learn and respond. Yet every delay increased the risk of disaster. The media played a role in spreading misinformation, portraying the aliens as invaders or potential conquerors, fueling hysteria and pushing governments to act aggressively. Meanwhile, secret organizations tried to decode the alien signals, discovering that some messages contained guidance on energy, environmental, and technological advances. Intended as gifts and warnings to prevent catastrophe, these were largely ignored in the rush to prepare for war. Ordinary citizens watched the skies with a mix of awe and terror. Some joined protests demanding peace and dialogue, while others demanded immediate defense measures. Humanity's failure to recognize the aliens' peaceful gestures highlighted a deep problem of misunderstanding and fear. The experts continued to send communications, often receiving no response, or signals that were too subtle for humans to fully comprehend. Tension increased with every passing hour as ships shifted positions, sometimes forming patterns in the sky that were beautiful yet cryptic. Military leaders interpreted these movements as tactical positioning, while scientists saw them as attempts at communication. This misinterpretation created a dangerous feedback loop where humans prepared for attacks that the aliens never intended. Diplomatic channels struggled to keep pace with events, often issuing statements that contradicted one another, further confusing the public and fueling rumors of impending war. Some leaders recognized the seriousness of ignoring warnings, but they were outnumbered by those advocating immediate action. The aliens' patience and intelligence contrasted sharply with human haste and fear, showing a lesson in restraint and foresight. In cities around the world, people debated constantly. Schools held emergency drills, businesses closed early, and governments enforced curfews in some areas. The world seemed to stand still, waiting for the first move, but unaware that the most important actions were being ignored. The subtle messages from the aliens were clear. Act wisely, understand before attacking, or face consequences. Humanity, however, was too busy preparing for confrontation to listen properly. The warnings were right in front of every leader, scientist, and citizen, but fear and arrogance clouded judgment. The aliens, continuing to hover silently, observed and waited, understanding the high stakes and the fragile state of human society. Their presence was a mirror reflecting humanity's fears, ambitions, and mistakes. Yet humans were too distracted by political agendas and military strategies to see the truth. The situation remained tense, a delicate balance of hope and dread, as the alien visitors prepared to act if warnings continued to be ignored. Every second that passed increased the risk, and the aliens' patience, though vast, was not infinite. Humanity's failure to heed these early signs set the stage for a confrontation that could cost lives on both sides. The stage was set for a dramatic test of courage, wisdom, and restraint, one that would reveal whether humans could finally listen and learn from the beings who had come not to conquer, but to guide. The first encounters between humans and aliens happened suddenly, catching everyone off guard. In major cities, people watched in awe as massive ships hovered silently above skyscrapers, their surfaces shimmering with strange colors. The aliens attempted to show peaceful intentions, projecting holographic images of their technology and symbols of goodwill. They released small drones that hovered gently around crowded streets, observing without harming anyone. Children laughed and pointed, while adults stared in disbelief. Some scientists rushed to explain the signs, interpreting them as attempts to communicate and build trust. Yet fear quickly spread, fueled by misinformation and panic. Military forces misread the drones and light projections as hostile acts and immediately scrambled jets and activated defense systems. Alarms blared in cities, and sirens signaled the population to take cover. Citizens ran to shelters, cars clogged the streets, and people called loved ones frantically. The aliens, seeing the sudden aggression, paused, perhaps expecting humans to understand, but humans misinterpreted their hesitation as weakness or deception. Shots were fired, missiles launched, and chaos erupted in the skies. The alien ships did not retaliate with destructive force, instead demonstrating precision maneuvers that avoided harm. They used energy shields to deflect attacks and moved with incredible speed, showing intelligence and control far beyond human capabilities. Yet human panic continued to escalate. Firefighters, emergency personnel, and civilians were caught in the middle, trying to survive while witnessing events they could not comprehend. Scientists and diplomats pleaded for calm, explaining that any attack could provoke a response that humans were not prepared to handle. But the calls for caution were drowned out by fear and confusion. The media broadcasted live footage, some showing the peaceful intentions of the aliens, others highlighting the explosions, smoke, and chaos. Adding to the panic, social media platforms overflowed with rumors, videos, and false reports of attacks, alien abductions, and invasions. The aliens, understanding human emotions better than humans themselves, tried alternative communication methods, sending complex light patterns and vibrations to convey that they meant no harm. Citizens caught glimpses of these signals, but few understood their meaning. Instead, the gestures were often interpreted as intimidation or preparation for an attack. The first contact revealed the stark difference between the species. Humans reacted with fear and aggression, while aliens acted with caution and intelligence. Military leaders debated strategies, some advocating negotiation, others calling for continued bombardment. Their decisions were split by uncertainty, pride, and fear of appearing weak. Meanwhile, human scientists worked tirelessly to decode the alien symbols, discovering traces of mathematical and scientific knowledge far advanced from anything on Earth. They realized that the aliens were not attacking, but were trying to teach, to guide, and to prevent catastrophic mistakes. Ordinary citizens experienced conflicting emotions, some wanting to flee, some wanting to connect, and some wanting revenge. Families were torn apart by panic and fear. Streets were deserted in some areas, while others were filled with people trying to capture videos of the phenomenon. The aliens, seeing the human response, may have understood that warning alone was insufficient. Their patience was remarkable, giving humans multiple chances to understand before taking decisive action. Government communications became chaotic, issuing conflicting statements about safety, retaliation, and negotiation. This mismanagement increased fear, while alien gestures remained unappreciated. The skies above became a theater of tension, with ships moving gracefully yet deliberately, projecting images meant to communicate peace. Yet humans interpreted every movement as a threat, escalating military readiness. The first contact also revealed humanity's arrogance, believing themselves in control of the situation. While the aliens demonstrated superior technology and understanding, the contrast was striking, and some scientists warned that the misunderstanding could escalate into catastrophe. In the midst of chaos, a few brave individuals attempted to reach out, sending signals of friendship, sharing knowledge, and urging calm, but their voices were often drowned out by hysteria. The first contact became a lesson in miscommunication, fear, and the consequences of ignoring signs. Humans saw destruction, confusion, and mystery, while aliens tried to convey intelligence, caution, and a desire to coexist. Despite the panic, some people began to see hope, realizing that the aliens were not there to destroy, but to teach and guide. The events of this chaotic first encounter would shape humanity's understanding of extraterrestrial life forever, revealing both the fragility and resilience of humans, and the remarkable patience, wisdom, and caution of the alien visitors. The stage was set for the next chapter, where humans would have to confront their mistakes, learn from the warnings, and decide whether fear or understanding would guide their actions. The alien leaders decided it was time to make their intentions absolutely clear. They broadcast a powerful message across multiple frequencies, reaching every human device capable of receiving signals. The message was calm but firm, explaining that the aliens had observed humanity for decades and that their actions were no threat unless humans chose hostility. They warned that any continued aggression could lead to irreversible consequences, emphasizing that their goal was not conquest, but restoration and balance. Humans listened with mixed reactions. Some were relieved to hear a peaceful message, while others remained skeptical, interpreting it as a clever trick. Governments around the world held emergency meetings, debating how to respond. Some leaders argued for immediate negotiations, insisting that dialogue could prevent disaster. Others pushed for defensive measures, fearing that the aliens' warnings were a precursor to an invasion. Military forces remained on high alert, ready to act at a moment's notice. Missiles were stationed, fighter jets patrolled the skies, and communication satellites were monitored intensely. Yet behind the scenes, many scientists and diplomats worked tirelessly to decode the deeper meaning of the alien message. They realized that the aliens were not just warning against physical attacks, but also advising humanity to stop destructive behaviors that threatened the planet and its people. Citizens reacted in many ways. Some took to the streets to protest for peace, waving banners and holding vigils. Others hoarded resources, preparing for a potential attack despite the warnings. News media became a battleground of opinions. Interviews with experts, political analysts, and witnesses filled every channel. Some calling for calm, some for action, creating widespread confusion. Schools were closed in many areas. Workplaces shifted to remote operations, and public transportation was limited as governments tried to control panic. The aliens, observing from above, remained calm. Their ships formed patterns in the sky that were beautiful yet deliberate. Each formation carried a symbolic message intended to encourage understanding and restraint. Some humans recognized the patterns, understanding them as a universal language of logic and balance. But most remained unaware, interpreting them as signs of aggression or intimidation. Political debates intensified, with some advocating complete compliance with the alien guidance, believing humanity could learn from the wisdom being offered. Others called for defiance, believing that humans could not be controlled or dictated by extraterrestrial beings. This division created tension not only between countries but also within societies. Families argued over whether to trust the aliens. Friends debated endlessly about the correct course of action. The atmosphere was tense, and fear often overpowered reason. Even as the aliens continued to demonstrate their intelligence and restraint, humans were distracted by uncertainty and ego, refusing to fully listen. Behind the public chaos, scientists discovered that the aliens' technology could potentially help humanity solve critical problems, from climate change to energy shortages. The message was clear. Peace and cooperation could lead to growth. hostility could lead to destruction. Diplomats attempted to organize international councils, hoping to unify humanity under a single response. But historical rivalries, distrust, and political ambition made cooperation difficult. The aliens, seeing the indecision and aggression, became more precise in their demonstrations, carefully showing consequences of potential human actions without harming civilians. Some of these demonstrations involved controlled simulations that displayed what could happen if warnings were ignored. But many humans failed to understand the significance. Citizens continued to debate, some calling for immediate surrender to the alien guidance, others preparing for war. The uncertainty created a fragile environment where every action could tip the balance toward disaster. Yet the aliens' patience remained remarkable. They gave humans time to reflect, to understand, and to change their course. But the clock was ticking. The broadcasted ultimatum emphasized responsibility, wisdom, and foresight, qualities humans needed to embrace immediately. The aliens made it clear that ignoring these signs would not just threaten humans, but could result in irreversible damage to the planet and its inhabitants. The world realized that this was a turning point, a moment when humanity had to choose between arrogance and humility, aggression and understanding, fear and reason. In cities across the globe, people looked to the skies, watching the alien ships silently hover, their presence a constant reminder of the choice humanity faced. Some began to see the wisdom behind the aliens' patience, understanding that every action taken now would have long-lasting consequences. As hours passed, the message remained clear. The aliens were offering guidance and peace, but humans had to act wisely. The ultimatum was not a threat of immediate destruction, but a call for reflection, cooperation, and responsible decision-making. Ignoring it could bring devastation. Heeding it could lead to growth. The stage was set for humanity to prove its wisdom, maturity, and ability to learn from the universe. Yet the real question remained, would humans listen, or would fear and pride lead them down a dangerous path? The aliens, realizing that their warnings continued to be ignored, decided to take action to prevent humanity from making catastrophic mistakes. They did not wish to harm humans unnecessarily, but they needed to demonstrate the consequences of continued aggression. Using advanced technology, they activated precise countermeasures that targeted military capabilities without endangering civilians. Entire cities experienced sudden blackouts as power grids were disrupted. Communication networks went down, and military equipment froze in place. Fighter jets were immobilized on runways, and missiles became unusable. The sudden loss of control shocked governments and militaries, showing humans that their weapons were powerless against the aliens' superior technology. People watched from their homes and streets in disbelief, unsure whether this was an attack or a warning. Panic mixed with awe as lights flickered and entire cities went silent. Scientists scrambled to understand the alien technology, realizing that it was not destructive in intent, but designed to force humanity to pause, think, and reflect. Governments issued emergency statements, trying to calm citizens, but the realization of helplessness spread quickly. Many leaders understood for the first time that the aliens were far more advanced, and that every aggressive move humans made could have devastating consequences. Some citizens took to social media, sharing videos of jets frozen midair, streetlights flickering, and power stations going dark, creating viral discussions about the aliens' message. Military leaders convened urgent meetings, debating whether to retaliate or attempt communication. The consensus slowly shifted toward caution as humans realized that conventional weapons were useless against such advanced beings. Despite this, some political factions insisted on continued preparation for battle, unwilling to accept that they were outmatched. Ordinary citizens experienced a mixture of fear, awe, and relief. Schools and businesses closed temporarily, while neighborhoods watched the skies, hoping for signs of safety. Families gathered together, sharing hope and anxiety as they observed the aliens' calculated actions. Scientists discovered that the alien countermeasures were highly sophisticated, designed to disable only instruments of aggression. They confirmed that no civilians were harmed intentionally, proving the aliens' restraint and focus on guidance rather than destruction. As days passed, humans slowly began to understand the lesson being delivered, that the arrogance of ignoring warnings could bring them to the brink of disaster. Diplomats and scientists began drafting proposals to establish communication channels based on mutual respect and understanding. Hoping that this would prevent further intervention, governments started to reconsider previous strategies of military confrontation, acknowledging that restraint and cooperation might be the only path forward. Meanwhile, the aliens continued to monitor human behavior. Their presence a constant reminder of the delicate balance between action and consequence. Citizens started discussing the aliens' motives, realizing that these beings had no desire for conquest. Instead, they sought to prevent humanity from harming itself, using power that humans could barely comprehend. The blackouts and immobilizations became lessons in humility, showing the limits of human technology against forces far greater than themselves. News outlets slowly shifted focus, reporting on the aliens' intelligence, restraint, and clear message rather than only fear and speculation. Social media began featuring discussions about learning from the encounter, understanding the technology, and changing strategies toward peaceful engagement. Communities organized gatherings to observe the sky, sharing insights about the aliens' patterns and movements. Some groups attempted symbolic gestures of peace, such as projecting lights or messages toward the ships, hoping to show respect and understanding. The aliens observed all human reactions, noting which actions reflected comprehension and which showed continued arrogance or misunderstanding. It became clear that humanity's next choices would determine whether the intervention would end peacefully or escalate into disaster. Many citizens reflected on past mistakes, recognizing that ignoring guidance had brought them to a dangerous point. That fear, pride, and misunderstanding could lead to unnecessary conflict with beings who had only tried to help. Governments issued cautious statements encouraging calm, communication, and observation, emphasizing that cooperation with the aliens' intentions could prevent further disruption. Scientists worked on decoding subtle alien signals, discovering hidden messages about energy, environment, and technology, demonstrating that the aliens' purpose was as much about teaching and guiding as it was about enforcing limits. Ordinary people began to feel a mixture of gratitude and fear, understanding that the aliens' restraint and intelligence had saved countless lives and averted potential disaster. The immobilization of military forces served as a clear and unforgettable lesson, showing that humanity's arrogance had been tested and found wanting. Yet there was still hope that humans could learn from these events and choose a path of cooperation, understanding, and wisdom. The aliens' precise, non-lethal countermeasures had paid the ultimate price in patience and effort, offering humanity a chance to reflect, change, and survive. In every city and country, people now looked at the sky not with blind fear, but with awareness, realizing that the decisions they made next would shape the future of the planet and determine whether humanity deserved the trust and guidance of these extraordinary visitors. Seeing that humanity continued to act recklessly despite repeated warnings, the aliens decided it was time for a final, decisive measure. They prepared a complex operation designed to neutralize the most dangerous human threats while minimizing harm to civilians. The alien ships moved with precision, positioning themselves over military installations, weapons factories, and strategic command centers. Their goal was not destruction, but to prevent humans from unleashing forces that could lead to global catastrophe. From above, humans watched in awe and fear as alien drones and energy fields immobilized missiles, grounded fighter jets, and disabled warships. Entire cities experienced temporary power surges and communications blackouts. The disruption created chaos, but it was controlled. A clear demonstration of the aliens' superior intelligence and restraint. Civilians observed the events with a mixture of panic and amazement. Some taking videos and sharing them on social media, others fleeing to shelters, unsure of what the aliens might do next. Scientists worked frantically to understand the mechanisms behind the alien technology, discovering that it relied on energy manipulation and advanced fields that humans could barely comprehend. Despite their advanced understanding, humans realized they were powerless to counter these interventions. The aliens acted swiftly and decisively, yet carefully, ensuring that no innocent lives were lost. Their precision demonstrated not only their technological superiority, but also their ethical restraint. In military headquarters, leaders experienced shock and disbelief as their weapons and systems were neutralized. For the first time, they truly understood the vast gap between human and alien capabilities. Diplomats and negotiators scrambled to interpret the alien actions, trying to communicate and prevent any misunderstandings. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens began to grasp the gravity of the situation, realizing that their species had been pushed to the brink. The aliens' actions were a clear message. Humanity had ignored repeated warnings, and now it was paying the price for its arrogance. Yet the price paid by the aliens themselves was great. Many of their drones and smaller craft were damaged or destroyed during the operation, highlighting the risks they undertook to save humanity. The loss of alien life was a stark reminder that even beings far superior to humans were not immune to sacrifice. Their courage and commitment to peace became evident, showing that they valued the survival of humans above their own safety. Observers on Earth began to reflect on what had happened, understanding that the aliens were not aggressors, but protectors, attempting to prevent self-destruction. Social media and news outlets shifted their focus from fear to admiration, highlighting the aliens' bravery and strategic intelligence. In universities and research centers, scholars debated the lessons to be learned, analyzing the ethical and technological aspects of the intervention. The operation also revealed the immense responsibility humans carried, that their actions could trigger catastrophic consequences if they continued on a reckless path. Citizens began to organize community discussions, sharing knowledge and reflecting on the aliens' message, hoping to influence leaders and prevent future mistakes. Governments gradually acknowledged the aliens' sacrifice and the need for a more cautious, thoughtful approach. Military strategies were reevaluated, focusing on defense, diplomacy, and understanding rather than aggression. Scientists discovered more clues about the aliens' intentions hidden in subtle signals and patterns left behind during the operation. These clues contained knowledge that could help humanity advance without repeating its dangerous mistakes. Families and communities witnessed the event together, sharing the emotional impact of seeing beings willing to risk everything to save a species that had repeatedly ignored their guidance. The world collectively mourned the alien lives lost while recognizing the immense lesson delivered. Ordinary citizens felt a mixture of gratitude, guilt, and determination, realizing that the aliens' actions had given humanity a second chance. Educational programs began to emerge, teaching about the encounter, the technology, and the moral responsibility humans now carried. The ultimate sacrifice of the aliens became a turning point, showing that courage and wisdom sometimes come at an unimaginable cost. Humanity, for the first time, truly understood that survival required humility, cooperation, and respect for knowledge far beyond its own. As the operation concluded, the aliens withdrew from the immediate conflict zones, leaving humans to reflect, learn, and rebuild. The skies remained filled with their presence for days, a constant reminder of the intervention, their patience, and the ultimate price they had paid. People began to grasp the profound truth. The aliens had not come to conquer, but to guide and protect, even at the risk of their own lives. The events marked a historic moment in human history, one that would be remembered as the day humanity witnessed both the power and the compassion of an advanced civilization. The sacrifice made by the aliens created a sense of awe, fear, and deep respect, inspiring humans to reconsider their actions, choices, and responsibilities for the future of Earth. After the aliens' decisive operation, humanity began to slowly comprehend the gravity of their actions and the consequences that had been narrowly avoided. Survivors on both sides mourned the losses, with humans reflecting on their arrogance and short-sightedness, and aliens mourning the lives they had risked and lost to prevent catastrophe. Across the globe, cities that had witnessed the immobilization of military forces and blackouts became centers of reflection. People discussed openly what had happened, analyzing the aliens' actions and messages, realizing that the beings had acted not out of malice, but from an extraordinary sense of responsibility. Governments held emergency sessions to assess the lessons from the encounter. Debates raged about how to prevent future misunderstandings and how humanity could better respond to extraterrestrial contact. Many leaders admitted, perhaps for the first time, that fear and pride had blinded them to reason and wisdom. Scientists worked tirelessly to decode the remaining signals and messages left by the aliens, uncovering hidden information about advanced energy systems, environmental sustainability, and communication methods. This knowledge, though difficult to fully comprehend, became a symbol of the aliens' intent to guide humans rather than punish them. Ordinary citizens also engaged, forming discussion groups, holding vigils, and sharing stories of their experiences during the encounter. Schools incorporated lessons on diplomacy, patience, and critical thinking, emphasizing the need to heed warnings and understand intentions. The collective realization was that humanity's survival depended not just on technology or military power, but on wisdom, cooperation, and humility. Social media began to shift tone, from fear and speculation to education and awareness. People shared videos, images, and analyses, highlighting the alien actions as demonstrations of intelligence, strategy, and moral responsibility. In cities that had faced the most disruption, communities came together to rebuild, reflecting on the value of life and the importance of listening to warnings before taking reckless actions. Diplomats worked to create new international protocols for potential extraterrestrial encounters, focusing on communication, observation, and peaceful engagement. Understanding that divided responses had brought humanity dangerously close to disaster. Leaders who had previously advocated aggression now promoted cooperation and learning, acknowledging that the alien sacrifice had given humanity a second chance. Scientists discovered subtle details in the alien operations that suggested careful calculation. Each move had been designed to teach, not to destroy, highlighting the patience and wisdom of the visitors. In media interviews, citizens expressed awe and gratitude. Many admitted that the alien actions had been a wake-up call, forcing humanity to reconsider its arrogance and impulsive tendencies. Families recounted their experiences during the immobilizations and blackouts, realizing how fragile human systems were and how reliant they were on forces beyond their control. The world began to see the aliens not as threats, but as teachers, whose interventions had prevented irreversible mistakes. Community leaders organized forums to discuss how humans could apply the lessons learned, focusing on restraint, strategic thinking, and understanding consequences. International coalitions formed to share knowledge and develop systems to prevent future missteps, emphasizing observation, diplomacy, and careful analysis rather than panic and aggression. Scientists continued decoding alien technology, discovering ways to adapt advanced energy systems and communication strategies to benefit humanity without repeating past errors. Cities that had been the epicenters of fear and chaos transformed into hubs of learning and cooperation. Citizens now viewing the sky with curiosity and respect rather than fear. Museums and educational programs began to document the encounter, teaching future generations about the events, the decisions made, and the ultimate sacrifice of the aliens to preserve humanity. Ordinary people also embraced new values, such as patience, critical thinking, and global unity, recognizing that humanity's arrogance had almost led to its downfall. Stories of bravery, restraint, and wisdom spread worldwide, inspiring movements that promoted understanding, peace, and collaboration across nations. The aliens' actions had become a mirror for humanity, showing both the fragility and the potential of humans when faced with extraordinary circumstances. Leaders, scientists, and citizens alike came to a shared understanding. The future depended on humility, rationality, and learning from those who came with guidance rather than conquest. The encounter sparked a cultural shift, with art, literature, and media reflecting themes of reflection, responsibility, and the value of life. Humanity began to realize that the universe was vast and complex, that they were not alone, and that every decision could carry consequences beyond immediate comprehension. Communities emphasized education about diplomacy, ethics, and foresight, ensuring that future generations would not repeat the same mistakes. The aliens' patience, intelligence, and sacrifice had provided a turning point, allowing humans to survive, learn, and grow, and the planet slowly began to heal from the tension and fear. The reflection continued for months, with discussions in homes, schools, workplaces, and governments. Humanity finally grasped the lesson. Survival required understanding, restraint, and cooperation, and that ignoring guidance came at an unimaginable cost. The aliens' presence, their actions, and their sacrifices had become a lasting legacy, inspiring humans to approach future challenges with wisdom, courage, and respect. The surviving aliens began to withdraw from Earth, leaving behind a planet forever changed by their presence and actions. Humans watched as the massive ships slowly moved toward orbit and then disappeared into the vastness of space. The skies that had once been filled with awe and fear were now calm, but the lessons remained. Humanity had witnessed the ultimate demonstration of patience, intelligence, and sacrifice. People reflected on the events that had unfolded over the past weeks, realizing that the aliens had come not to conquer, but to guide, protect, and teach. Governments issued statements urging citizens to learn from the encounter, emphasizing the importance of humility, cooperation, and responsible decision-making. Scientists continued their work, studying the residual signals, technology, and knowledge left behind, discovering advanced energy systems, communication methods, and subtle lessons about sustainability and balance. These discoveries promised a future where humanity could advance without repeating past mistakes. The alien withdrawal did not bring an end to human reflection. Instead, it sparked a global awakening, prompting nations and communities to rethink priorities, values, and strategies for survival. Citizens everywhere shared stories of the encounter, from witnessing the immobilization of military forces to seeing the extraordinary displays of alien technology. The narrative became a reminder that wisdom and restraint often outweighed strength and aggression. Schools and universities incorporated the lessons into curricula, teaching young generations about diplomacy, patience, and understanding the consequences of ignoring warnings. Media outlets produced documentaries, interviews, and analyses, highlighting the courage and sacrifice of the aliens and the mistakes humans had almost repeated. Ordinary people began to engage in discussions about cooperation, ethics, and preparedness for future encounters with beings far more advanced. Communities held events to commemorate the aliens' actions, honoring the lives lost and the knowledge shared. The message was clear. Humanity had been given a second chance, and it was up to them to prove worthy of it. Leaders of nations realized that collaboration was essential, that unity and rational decision-making could prevent future disasters. International coalitions formed to share knowledge, resources, and strategies, creating systems to prevent misunderstandings and to respond responsibly to potential extraterrestrial contact. Scientists and engineers worked together to adapt alien technology for human use, designing energy systems, transportation methods, and communication networks that reflected the lessons learned. In cities and towns, citizens looked up at the sky differently, with curiosity, respect, and awareness rather than fear and panic. Art, literature, and media began reflecting themes of reflection, responsibility, and the importance of heeding guidance from those wiser and more experienced. Humanity had begun to understand that survival in the universe depended not just on technology, but on intelligence, ethics, and cooperation. Families shared stories of what they had witnessed, teaching their children the importance of listening, learning, and acting with responsibility. The alien sacrifice had become a symbol of hope, courage, and the power of knowledge, reminding humans that even the most advanced beings valued life and wisdom over destruction. Governments and organizations implemented training and preparedness programs, emphasizing negotiation, observation, and careful analysis rather than impulsive reactions. Social media and online platforms became spaces for education and discussion, highlighting lessons learned, encouraging collaboration, and promoting a global sense of responsibility. Citizens slowly began to rebuild trust in leadership and scientific guidance, realizing that fear and aggression had nearly led to disaster. The residual signals from the aliens were studied extensively, revealing patterns of logic, ethics, and knowledge that could guide humanity toward a safer, more advanced future. People began to feel gratitude and awe, not only for the technology and knowledge left behind, but for the restraint and wisdom the aliens had demonstrated. The encounter sparked a shift in global consciousness, inspiring humanity to value patience, cooperation, and foresight. The legacy of the aliens' visit became embedded in culture, influencing education, governance, art, and community values. Humanity now faced a choice: continue the path of arrogance and short-sightedness, or embrace the lessons, grow, and become a responsible species capable of surviving in a complex universe. Citizens and leaders alike understood that ignoring warnings could no longer be an option, and that wisdom and learning must guide every major decision. The aliens' departure left a silence in the skies, but a profound presence in human minds, a constant reminder of the ultimate price paid for patience and guidance. Across the world, people vowed to honor the lessons, building alliances, learning from the knowledge shared, and preparing responsibly for future encounters. Humanity had been tested, humbled, and taught, and now it had the opportunity to prove itself worthy of the universe's trust. The story of the aliens' sacrifice became a turning point, a reminder that peace, intelligence, and restraint could change the course of history, that ignoring guidance had almost led to destruction, and that the future depended on listening, learning, and acting wisely. The planet had survived, not because of human power alone, but because of courage, sacrifice, and the guidance of those who had risked everything to protect life. And with the aliens gone, humanity faced a new era, one filled with knowledge, responsibility, and the chance to finally live up to the lessons imparted.